So Team DeSantis has now taken the gloves off against Donald Trump. They're starting to run some more aggressive ads to try to, make up the lost ground that's happened with the Trump indictment and his recent surge. And, we just discussed Trump's new ad against DeSantis. Putting Ron was eating pudding with 2 fingers. And you know what? He was digging into that pudding. You know what else he wants to do? He wants to dig into your grandma's Social Security and cut it. He wants to raise the retirement age. Really terrible, terrible thing. You hate to see it. So he was able to link pudding fingers to DeSantis wanting to cut Medicare and Social Security, which actually, look, not only is it funny, it is also substantive, right? Well, Team DeSantis is going to go after Trump for what they view as his policy failings. And remember, I've given some advice, right, on the way that the DeSantis team can go about this. One of the things I would have pointed to was the fact that Trump ran as the anti-outsourcing guy, and there were 200,000 jobs that were outsourced under his watch. In fact, his tax bill incentivized outsourcing of good American jobs. That's one line of attack I would have went with. Another one, to particularly, reach out to that right-wing base, you go with a crime argument. Hey, look, in Florida, we lock up criminals. Apparently, Donald Trump likes to release them. We saw what he did with the First Step Act, and we see this rise in crime. All you need to know is the DeSantis administration would be much tougher on crime than the Donald Trump administration. These are the kind of arguments that I think would land with the right-wing base. Now, so he chose a policy issue to go after him. It is, in theory, something that should appeal to the right-wing base, but I'm going to tell you why I think this is a dud of an ad, but let's take a look, and then we'll break it down.
Trump promised NRA members he'd have their back. But when Second Amendment rights came under attack, Trump abandoned us and stood with liberal Democrats.
Our side. You guys, half of you are so afraid of the NRA. We have to fight them every once in a while. That's okay.
Some of you people are petrified of the NRA. You can't be petrified. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me. I don't need it. What do I need?
That is why I have called for red flag laws.
Or might take the firearms first and then go to court. I like taking the guns early. Take the guns first, go through due process.
He and I introduced another assault weapons bill.
Diane, you have some very good ideas. Diane, if you could add what you have also, and I think you can, into the bill.
Yeah. Joe, are you ready?
Can you do that? Joe, can you do that? Pat, can you add?
Yeah, if you help.
Well, no, I'll help, but can you add what Amy and what Diane have? Can we add them in? We're talking about rules and regulations for purchasing. We're talking about changing an age from 18 to 21. I say that it should all be at 21. We do strong background checks. We're getting rid of the bump stocks.
Trump cut and run like a coward. Trump, the gun grabber, doesn't deserve a second chance.
Oh, man, that was great. I enjoyed that very much. Look, here's why this is going to fall flat. You're showing a video, and there's a direct part where he basically says this. It's him standing up to a special interest group. He's like, these guys, you're terrified of them. They have a lot of power over you. They have less power over me. What do I need? What do I need from them? I don't need anything from them. So that is based at face value, no matter what special interest a politician is standing up to. If they're standing up to a special interest, that paints them in a good light. But more importantly, the specific policy changes that he was talking about that he supported, all of them poll maybe even over 70%. So universal background checks, red flag laws, raising the age to purchase a gun to 21. These are all very, very mild, moderate positions that have the support probably even of the majority of Republicans, right? It's been a long time since I've seen the polls on it, but I remember particularly when it comes to basic gun reforms, you have some that, the universal background checks polls at 90%. So you can't attack them over that. The whole idea of the red flag laws is if somebody is clearly demonstrating that they're crazy, that they're aggressive, that they're violent, if they say things like, I'm now going to do a mass shooting, in that scenario, they should be able to take the guns. And Trump was saying look, just take them first if there's reason to believe, and then you go through due process. And if it turns out after due process, hey, this is misstated, somebody has a grudge and they lied about it or whatever, then you return the guns. But what he's stating there, these are all majoritarian positions of the American people, but more importantly, even potentially among the right-wing base. These are at least 50-50, probably honestly more like over 50% for a lot of the policies he was talking about. The ban bump stock one, that's the only one I don't remember any polls on, but that is one of the things that he did after one of the mass shootings. And think about it, man. You are portraying Trump as moderate, as standing up to special interests, and as supporting, like, reforms that are very popular. And you thought this was the one to attack him on? Look, I get it. The NRA does have a lot of power over the Republican Party. But, I mean, look, they underwent a massive corruption scandal. That guy, Wayne LaPierre, who runs it, I forget the details of the case, but he was basically stealing millions of dollars. This is not like, they think this is a political third rail. It's really not. The thing that's a real political third rail is Medicare and Social Security, and Trump's hammering DeSantis on that. And DeSantis, in that right-wing world, they naively think like, no, the Republican base is ideological, they believe in small government, and, they want to cut Medicare, they want to cut Social Security. No, they don't. No, they don't. So, of all the issues you could have picked, I mean, there were a number of issues you could have gone to. And he didn't go to any of the good ones. He didn't go to the outsourcing of jobs. He didn't go to crime. I mean, look, if you wanted to try to outflank Trump in an intelligent way, you could have hit him on his tax bill, mostly cut taxes for the rich. And you could say, hey, what happened? I thought you were going to stand up to the donors. I thought you were going to stand up to the special interests. Turns out you served them. There's so many things you could attack him on. I mean, and DeSantis is stumbling on the wrong ones, in my opinion. Look, we'll see. I could be wrong. But the sense I'm getting is that his people are way too online and way too in that right-wing political junkie world, and they don't have the normie touch. They just don't. So more evidence of that, Ron DeSantis quietly signs Florida's 6-week abortion ban into law. So I have no doubt that this was a highly political maneuver for the primary, where they think, oh, if you sign this 6-week abortion ban into law, then you're going to go up in the primary polling. That's what they're thinking. But at the same time, abortion politics, as was proven in the last election, are destroying Republicans. This is one of the main issues that's leading to Republican losses in what was supposed to be a red wave year. The opposite happened. They massively underperformed. One of the main reasons is Roe v. Wade and abortion. And the right is viewed as super extreme on the issue because they are. And so DeSantis signs the 6-week abortion ban. By the way, just so you understand, they kind of know that this is a misstep also because they did a signing ceremony at 11 p.m. at night and vaguely tweeted about it. So it's just like a little like, yeah, I did this. Anyway, let's move on. Because they know for like a general election that's going to hurt them. Even the idea that that's going to help them in a primary, I don't really buy it. Why? Because the hardcore pro-life people will be like, why only 6 weeks? Why didn't you ban it from the moment of conception? This is still not pure enough. So the right-wing base can think that, and obviously the overwhelming majority of voters think this is way too extreme, because it is way too extreme. A lot of people don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So, again, he thinks this is going to help him in the primary, but he also kind of knows it's going to hurt him in a general, and so he's like sprinting to the right as much as he can. But what he's not understanding is that, as a general rule, the right-wing base is not super ideological. A lot of what they do is vibes-based. Hey, who's the alpha? Who's the leader? Who's the top dog? And to the extent there are any real, political issues that appeal to them, a lot of it's going to be one thing DeSantis is good at, which is right-wing culture war stuff, but one thing Trump is good at, which is sounding more economically populist. So this is not going to help him. Now, by the way, look at this. The same electorate that reelected DeSantis by 20 points was also pro-choice by a 20-point margin. There was a time when DeSantis was a lot more hands-off on the issue of abortion, a lot more moderate on the issue of abortion. I think he was like 15 weeks, maybe, but we're going to keep, you're still going to have the ability to get an abortion. And then under pressure from right-wing activists and trying to gain ground in that Republican primary, now we signed the 6-week abortion ban. I think it's a devastatingly terrible idea. Now, by the way, even more evidence of how he's falling behind here, big Republican donor and a bunch of friends back off DeSantis over culture war politics. Very big problem. So they reference, hey, this 6-week abortion ban thing, I don't know what you're doing. If you think this is going to help you, it's not. It's not. But then we also have this. This is just DeSantis L after DeSantis L after DeSantis L. Florida to allow death penalty with 8-4 jury vote instead of unanimously. So understand something. With the death penalty system the way we currently have it in the United States and the states that allow the death penalty, there was a study, I believe it was from a British publication. It came out about a decade ago. They found that even with all of the safeguards and the guaranteed appeals and the unanimous vote, even with all that stuff, 4% of the time, the state ends up executing, murdering somebody who's totally innocent, who didn't commit the crime. So, as a matter of principle, I think people should oppose the death penalty because even if the idea in theory makes sense to you, which I understand that, the reality of it is 4% of the time, you're just executing an innocent person. So if you agree to it, you're saying, like, yeah, I'm okay with the state murdering people 4% of the time, even if they're totally innocent. That's a crazy position, right? DeSantis is saying, let's weaken it even more. Let's be more unsure than we even were previously where we got it wrong 4% of the time. And now we'll do an 8-4 vote to allow, in sentencing, to allow for the death penalty. Wow. Again, he thinks, well, this is going to help me massively in the primary. I don't know if there's any evidence of that. I'm not sure if that'll work, but what I do know is you're just sprinting to the right as hard as you can, thinking that that's the solution. And you're almost self-disenfranchising. I mean, that's my new favorite term, right? Like, you're losing your normie touch. That's the thing. Like, in order for a politician to be a good politician, probably the most underrated aspect of that, in terms of getting people to like you, is having a normie instinct and a normie touch. And the more he does stuff like this, the more he's running away from that at 1,000 miles an hour. And that has consequences, man. That has consequences. There's guys like Donald Trump who are a little bit of an exception where, he can get away with not having a normie touch from time to time. But even with him, you saw when he was most out in La La Land, being the most insane, siloed over on Truth Social, talking about the rigged election, retweeting QAnon stuff. I thought that's when he dropped to like 30% approval rating, right? The January 6th stuff, defending it, dropped to 30% approval rating. Recently, the new poll that came out in the general electorate, 25% favorable rating. Why? Because of the extremism, the losing the normie touch. Well, DeSantis is now doing the same thing. The difference is he didn't already have a built-in cult that supported him like Trump did, or if he did, it was nowhere near as big as Trump's cult was. And Trump, again, is now showing some more somewhat normie instincts with the attacks on Medicare, with the attacks on DeSantis' position on Medicare and Social Security. And so, I don't know, man. This ain't it, dog. I think it's going to hurt him. I think he's taking bad advice. He has way too online political junkie staffers, and he's desperately trying to run into the arms of irrelevance. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.